Okay, well, we are going to get started. This is Amy Hutzel. I'm with the California State Coastal Conservancy, and I want to thank you all for joining us for this webinar on recent research on Californians' attitude about the coast and barriers to coastal access. I'm really happy to have Adam Probalski and John Christensen participating with us, and they will be presenting their research, and I will introduce them in just a minute. I'm going to give kind of a broad overview of what we were interested in figuring out with this research. Then Adam's going to speak. We're going to show a short video. John is going to give his presentation, and then hopefully we've got 10 to 15 minutes at the end for questions. So a few housekeeping items before we dive in. Because of the number of participants on the line, everyone is muted except for the presenters. And just so you know, we're here in Oakland. John is in Los Angeles, and Adam is in Orange County. So hopefully this all technologically goes the way we expect. We have tested, and it seems like it's going to go well. So everyone is muted. If you have questions, you can type them into the questions tab that you'll find on your webinar control panel on the right side of your screen, and we will either answer them at the end during that Q&A period, or if they're clarifying questions, we will try to address them as we are going along. We plan to send a PDF of the slides out to everyone after the webinar, so you don't have to try to write everything down. And there will be a handful of polls for you to participate in during the webinar to compare your responses to some of our statewide polling data, and to also gain feedback from you about next steps in terms of research and improving coastal access. And also just to keep you awake and alert and participating in the webinar. So some context, the California State Coastal Conservancy and the State Coastal Commission have worked for over 40 years to open up public access to the coast of California. We've created access ways, trails, stairways, and worked with many partners, local governments, nonprofits, and others up and down the coast to provide visitor-serving amenities such as restrooms, parking lots, visitor centers, and the like. We continue to do this important work, but we're also interested in better understanding fundamental barriers to coastal access for Californians, and particularly lower-income communities in California, and addressing these issues to the best of our ability. So the types of issues I'm talking about could include the cost of traveling to the coast, the cost of staying at the coast, or limited access to information about coastal recreation opportunities. So the Conservancy recently contracted Probalski Research to undertake focus groups throughout the state and then conduct a statewide phone poll of adult Californians. To better understand how Californians view coastal access and what they think could be improved, and compare that to our assumptions about what the issues are. So Adam Probalski will present the findings from the poll, and we'll show a short clip from the 9 hours of focus groups. We won't sit here and watch all 9 hours, but that would be fun. So Probalski Research does work for a wide array of clients, from Restore Hetchetchee to Lennar to City of Newport Beach, just as a few examples. After Adam speaks, then John Christensen, a professor at UCLA, will present research that he conducted in collaboration with Phil King from San Francisco State University, including intercept surveys at Southern California beaches, a statewide survey, and research on Instagram use in parks in California. And John and Phil did this work with support from Resources Legacy Fund. So with that introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Adam, and he's going to give about a 15-minute presentation on the statewide survey.
Perfect. Thank you, Amy. I am going to go through our deck here with a lot of data, and some of it top line broad data, and some of it broken down by demographics. And I'm going to probably go quickly through some of the demographics for the interest of time. Like Amy said, the presentation will be available online, and it's very easy to reach me, so call me anytime for questions. I'm going to get started, and the first slide here just shows our methodology. We talked to 1,200 residents throughout the state, and we offered the survey in both English and Spanish. And then we also talked to people on landlines and mobile phones, and we just let that fall out based on the percentages of how respondents chose to respond. So it was very inclusive. Quickly, here's the kind of breakdown of the demographics, and we show it based on geography in a couple different ways, kind of the different coastal areas, and then also based on the different county groupings. But I'm going to get right into some of the data here. Just kind of plots out where responses were and kind of the different regions and how we looked at the state regionally. The different colors show the different regions. And then here shows the plotting of the responses, obviously clustered in major population centers. And then as you can see along the coast, we had these two different little coastal zones, yellow and kind of more pinkish there, within 5 miles of the coast and then 10 miles of the coast. And then not that they would necessarily consider themselves that, but we call everybody else inland. So getting right into the top issue of concern in the state, and keep in mind this was a few months ago, but still pretty relevant. Public safety is number one, followed by jobs and economy, poverty, which you can certainly kind of tie to jobs and economy, transportation, and it cascades down from there. The key thing here are two things. One is that coastal issues aren't necessarily high on the list, and that's I guess to some degree we might be a little disappointed with that, but people have other things they're thinking about as their number one issue. But also there's nothing that's overarching that really kind of compels a majority of people to say this is what they're concerned about, which generally is a part of a positive, robust economy and no major issues happening. Getting to overall coastal experience, we give statements and we see if people agree or disagree. California beaches are clean and safe places to visit. 79% agree, and throughout this presentation, I'll do my best to make sure we don't discount those that disagree or have a different opinion. But I'll say here that 79% of people agreeing on something is not very often that happens, so people are pretty happy. Next, we ask, we put a statement: California coast includes beaches and oceans, including beaches and oceans, are personally important to me, and we find that 89% have this personal connection to beaches and the ocean and the coast in general. And only 9% disagree with that statement. Even when I'm not visiting the California coast, I feel a strong connection to it. Again, we're trying to build this emotional tie and see if it's there. And if it wasn't, we wouldn't have found it. But 76%, we round up, agree with that statement, that they have a strong connection to it even when they're not there. And then we kind of look at it based on some demographics just to get a sense of whether we're leaving somebody behind or somebody isn't feeling the same way. And broadly, ethnic groups agree on that subject, on that message. People of all backgrounds are welcome at the California coast. 94% agree. This was one of the discovery tools or questions we asked to identify if people felt any sort of, we didn't use the word discrimination in any of our research, but to see if there was anything there, and we really didn't find any of it. Then we ask a question, we make a statement: I'm familiar with the California beaches and their amenities. 82% agree. So certainly 15% disagree, and that doesn't mean that there's no level of education that can be had or additional discovery work or marketing that can be done. But essentially, it's a strong place to start from. And we asked about childhood memories. we say, I have fond memories of visiting the California coast on school field trips when I was a kid. Almost 50%, basically 50% agree. And this is, if you look at water conservation as a kind of a proxy, today, if anyone grew up in California in the last 30 years, there's a reason why we have great numbers on conserving water when there's a drought, because everyone had an education as a kid on water conservation and saving water. Well, similarly, we're kind of building that scenario for giving people a connection to the coast, and that's almost a majority saying they agree that they've got fond memories as a kid. Looking at the numbers, certainly across the board, those numbers are positive, but obviously younger people, perhaps just because their memories are better, have a stronger memory of that. Looking at it from an ethnic standpoint, basically everyone is on board with that statement, and with Latinos and Asians feeling they've got the fondest memories, I guess. How often do you visit? How often do California residents visit the coast? And we've got a bunch of different metrics on this. First, we said, when was the last time you went to the coast? And clearly within the last year is the biggest number, but basically 42% or 40% saying within the last month or within the last week. So big numbers. 70% of respondents saying they visited the coast within the last year. Those are very strong numbers. Looking at it based on the different coastal areas, Central Coast visiting within the last week most often, and some other interesting numbers in there. Then we see, how often do you go to the California coast? And at least once per year is 40%, or I'm sorry, 38% saying that. Then you've got other groups of people saying monthly and weekly and even daily, the lucky ones. So there's a lot of, I guess, engagement, you could say, on the part of residents and the coast. Traveling there, we give a series of statements to try to flesh out whether people have ability to get there and stay there and park there and things like that. So first, transportation to the California coast is convenient and affordable. 63% agree. This is one of those points where we have to point out to the 25% who disagree and really identify what it is that perhaps can be done to improve their experience and make it more convenient and affordable to them. And also to look at the onshore and see what it is that they don't know, and give them perhaps the information. So looking at the convenience and affordable of getting to the coast transportation-wise across economic levels or income levels, pretty much broadly people say they agree. It's available to them. Parking, 54% agree. So this is not one of those off-the-chart numbers. We've got 38% who disagree that parking is convenient and generally available. So certainly one of those things that we kind of call homework. If we had the unlimited resources, we would probably dedicate significant monies towards finding a way of solving this issue for those people. Parking is affordable when they get to the California coast. 63%, again, we round up, agree, but still we've got 27% who disagree and 11% who are unsure. And then again, looking at it from a income level, even still, under $25,000 income earners, still a majority say it's affordable, but it's obviously less affordable to them than the rest of the income earners. Experience at the coast. We ask them, what they do when they get to the coast, and we have these data in full kind of verbiage in all the words that they said, and that's certainly something that could be made available. But here we just break it down and categorize it into all the different things people said. Clearly they're walking and hiking, and just kind of mobility there is top, and then some sort of engagement with the water itself it goes down from there. And just kind of interesting to see, I think low down, almost at the bottom, there's a person or two who said they picked up trash and we should all thank them, and then also someone who said they flew a kite. So kind of interesting to see how people use the coast. I wish there were more things to do when I got to the California coast. 65% disagree. This was one of those questions that came out of the focus groups, and it's one of the great reasons why researchers like us love focus groups, but also know that they are not statistically valid, because there was a lot of discussion in the focus groups about other things that we could do when we got there and opportunities for that. And so we checked that question. It turns out most people disagree, but there's certainly 32% who do agree. Interestingly enough, Latinos are the ones, are the only ethnic group that say they want something more to do when they get there. And then looking at it from an income status situation, only the lowest income earners want something more to do when they get to the coast. So just kind of interesting ways of looking at the data. Staying overnight at the coast was a topic not just for focus groups and for also this poll. And there's a lot of other research that's being done on this subject. But first we asked, do you ever stay overnight when you visit the coast? And 58% said no. 41% obviously said yes. And if we look at those numbers as to who does stay at the coast, it's this green area that kind of wraps around central and north central parts of California. And then the rest of California, majority-wise, says they don't. It doesn't mean that people in Inland Empire or other parts of the California don't stay, but it's just majority-wise. So looking at it from an age group standpoint, younger people in a much bigger magnitude don't stay overnight at the coast when they visit, and it's only 65 and older that do. And then looking at it from a breakdown of ethnic background, only white respondents say they do stay overnight at the coast, majority-wise, but still it's mixed, 51 to 48, and all other ethnic groups say they don't, majority-wise. And then looking at it from an income standpoint, certainly people who have lower income kind of stand out as not staying overnight at the coast. And like I said, there's a lot of other research on this subject that I think is very interesting, and hopefully some work being done to help improve the prospects of people being able to stay overnight at the coast. In your own words, please tell me what the barriers are to staying overnight at the coast, and certainly financial reasons that, we didn't have to do the poll to figure that out probably, but going down from there, some interesting factoids, right? They live near the coast, or they have family there, and maybe it's just not a need to stay overnight. But a theme that we'll see come up again is this: no time, they're busy, they're in school, or some people say they're not interested. So a couple of things you can't fix is time and interest. So there's about 20% right there of the people you don't necessarily have to address. What kind of accommodations do you stay in when you visit the coast? Hotels are number one, and then comes down from there, camping and with friends, etc. I think there's a lot of, or at least in my media world, talk of short-term rentals and Airbnb and things like that. And you can see that certainly is a factor, 5%, but still not doesn't come anywhere close to let's say threatening a hotel or the other traditional means of staying overnight, such as camping. We test a concept that is this idea of staying in kind of college dorm type scenario, basically a shared bathroom scenario with modest price per night, just to see if this is some place that from a policy perspective it's valuable to entertain. I would say the answer to that is yes, because 38% say yes, they're interested in staying in this kind of environment, but clearly 60% say no to that. And if we look at it based on age, all age categories say no, because the majority said no, but younger people perhaps because there's more younger people who've lived in that environment or are living in that environment now that are more willing to stay in that environment. I don't think I had the slide here, but women were pretty opposed to that environment. Looking at it from an income perspective, again, lower income families and individuals are a little bit more willing, but generally most income groups or all income groups are opposed to staying in the dorm type environment. Looking at overnight accommodations, we've put a statement out there: finding overnight accommodations at the California coast is convenient and affordable. A plurality says they disagree, but there's 38% who say they do agree, and 17% who just don't know. And I suspect that they're not being disingenuous; they just don't know. It's just not something they've explored. Looking at this opportunity to find convenient and affordable accommodations, only Latinos say that it's something that they have easy access to, and all other ethnic groups say, majority or plurality-wise, that it's not necessarily convenient and affordable. And then looking at it from an income standpoint, essentially across the board, all income groups say it's plurality, not necessarily convenient and affordable. Do people want to go more often? Well, yes. 69% say they wish they could go to the coast more often, and we excluded the people who get there every day from the answering to this question. For obvious reasons. I think it's worth noting again to look the 30%, the 29.7% who say no, and there may be reasons for that we can fix if we want to, right? Like making it easier and more comfortable and more accommodating to them, and that number may come down. But we also have to recognize that there's some people that just don't want to go more often. Looking at it from a geographic perspective, wanting to go more often, those who live within 5 and 10 miles of the coast certainly say yes, and then those who live quote-unquote inland, more than 10 miles from the coast, 71% say they wish they could go more often. So definitely broadly geographically, everyone wants to get there more often. And then looking at what the barriers are to visiting the coast more often, time and busy at work. These are busy at school. We put these things in over 60% say they're just too busy. Now, people were we can't, we've kind of gone through this several times internally and looked at it from a policy perspective, I guess, and obviously there's no way to address that from a policy perspective, so it's these other things on the list like road conditions and transportation issues and financial reasons that really come into play. We can't address the health problems necessarily, although there's some accessibility issues that could be entertained. And someone who's thinks that it's too crowded, we're not gonna make them happy probably. But generally, there are some things that can be addressed here, and generally it's this traffic and transportation we'll talk about a little bit more. Next steps is certainly, specifically this transportation, some way of things that we're talking about of partnering with transit agencies or even private enterprise to get more people to the coast and make it more convenient and affordable. And then, overnight stays. As I said, there's a lot of research on this subject and some real policy issues that are being explored on how to make it more available and accommodating to people. And then there's the big takeaway for us was the fact that Californians have basically a real connection and fond memories and appreciation for the coast. it's something that's highly valued. We do a lot of work for local and regional government on tax issues, and no one's suggested that there's going to be a coastal tax or anything like that, so I don't want to suggest that. But the credibility that the California coast has is essentially big and broad, and can be essentially utilized in any way the Coastal Commission or the Coastal Conservancy really would want to. And I know I went through that fairly quickly, and I think there were some poll questions that we were going to interject there, but I think we might have had some technical difficulties. So
let me,
yeah.
Adam, this is John. Let me
Yeah.
see. I got a message that our organizers at the Coastal Conservancy, their internet went down, but we'll try to carry on, and let me see if we can launch the first poll of this group as of when was the last time you went to the coast in California.
Oh, there we go.
And if you all can answer that, we'll give it a few minutes and give it a minute or two and compare your answers to the answers that we got from polling Californians.
Look at that! The professor launched a poll. I'm impressed, John.
All right, we're at 80% have voted.
I think we've got another couple seconds to go here. You want to close it, John?
All right, we're at 89%, so I think I'll close this poll, and you can see, can you see how people voted? Share results. Here's the results from people on here, which I think it looks like your big coastal lovers, generally going more often than most folks in statewide. Let me share this next one with you, and that's asking the question: what kind of accommodations do you stay at when you visit the coast? We've got 82% have voted. Anybody else want to cast a vote? You have 84% of you have voted. It's a pretty good turnout. I think I'll close this poll and share the results with you.
It looks like,
so it looks like
a little higher short-term rental than the average.
And more friends and family and campground and cabins. We have an adventurous group here as well. It's interesting. As I present my results, this is a little bit closer to what we found when we did intercept surveys on 11 beaches in Southern California, where we found about 16% of the people were staying in short-term rentals. So I am now